All right, so the recording has started. So once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience while we start today's program. So my name is Julian, and I'm the Regional Solution Consultant for Clarivate, based out of Singapore. I think the last time I've been down to Pahang to meet all of you, or Kuantan to meet all of you, was probably before COVID struck. I do miss the food there. I hope to be able to meet all of you in person sometime soon. Right. So for today's session, I will be going through Web of Science this morning. I think for some of you who have already been here before, attended my sessions previously, you might be familiar with Web of Science. However, the good news is that for a period of time, you were not able to access Web of Science, but the library has brought back the subscription for these services for you this year. Since the last time we've accessed Web of Science, we've gone through a major revamp. We've also upgraded some of the features and functionalities. It is still an ongoing iteration with improvements. So I'll be showing you some of the exciting new features that were released most recently this year, as well as towards the end of last year. So what I'll be doing for today's session, we'll be going through a series of slides, and then I'll be diving into a live demonstration to walk you through this tool that we have. So to frame today's session, I have on the screen here some of the typical steps for doing a literature review. Okay? I believe most of these steps would also apply to doing an original research paper. So you would start with problem formulation, so deciding what you want to research on, and followed by literature searching to find the most relevant materials to support your research and to create some findings and conclusions. Then once you have identified all this literature, you would want to then go through some evaluation, data evaluation, interpretation, analysis of all the literature that you have discovered online or even offline. And once you have collated all this data and interpretations, you then sit down and write that paper for yourself. So why am I showing you these steps? The reason is because Web of Science will be able to support you in each of these various aspects. So things like problem formulation, literature searching, data evaluation, and analysis, these four main steps can all be done via the Web of Science platform. Writing and publishing can be done using our other service, which is the Endnote Endnote tool, so which is the reference management tool that you have access to, and also publishing that journal citation reports. So you have journal citation reports that you have access to that will give you more information of the journals before you submit your manuscript to those journals. Okay. So I already see some questions in the chat. So Casing has mentioned some of the publishers have their own tools to help authors find journals that potentially suit their manuscript. Does WAS have a similar tool? Yes, we do. So we do have a manuscript matching tool that you could use, which I will showcase this in this afternoon's session. All right. Okay. So now that we have this framework in place on what are the steps involved in writing your research paper, let's start with the first part, which is identifying a potential problem that you want to solve with your research. So identifying that research question. When it comes to identifying topics to research on, it's not as simple as thinking, oh, today I would want to do something on robotic arms, right? It's not as simple as that, because ultimately, I think everyone's aspiration is to publish in a high impact journal. So Q1 journal published in Web of Science. But in order to be attractive enough to be accepted by these high impact journals, you would always have to think about what is that research topic that would attract them. Yeah, it would it would defeat the purpose of publishing a paper if it does not advance that specific research area. Okay? Why is it that there are so many researchers out there? I guess most of you as postgraduate students, you say, oh, because it's compulsory for me to do a research paper in order to graduate. But for those who are embarking on a research career, the reason why you're doing research is so that you can advance science and make society better, have an impact. So deciding on the topic is really important so that you become more attractive and increase your chances of being accepted by these high impact journals. When you are deciding on a topic, most of you would start with keyword searching. Same thing with me. When I want to find out more about something, I turn on my browser and do a Google search. That's fine. However, keyword searching is easy, but not as robust as you might think. Okay? What's the reason? I want you to think about a search term. So let's say you're searching on engines, okay? If you type the word engine into the search box, what will happen? Ultimately, whichever database that you're using will just pull out documents mentioning the word engine in the text. However, it doesn't show you the context of which this engine has been mentioned. Is it a car engine? Is it a jet engine? Is it there could be other different engines out there. So we always advocate that there is an importance in identifying the relationship between documents or research papers. How is this relationship built upon? It's built upon the citations. What is a citation? I hope all of you know what is a citation. So a citation is a reference to other published materials. And once a paper has mentioned something in their reference list, that connection will stay permanent. And with this connection, this is how databases like Web of Science are built. We are a citation index database. So some of you have asked, many researchers have asked me, is Web of Science a full text database? Is it like Google Scholar? So ultimately, we do not host any full text. Okay, so we are not owners of any of the full text available, but we do point you to the relevant full text where available. But ultimately, Web of Science is a citation index database. So what is this citation index that I'm talking about? This, if you forget everything that I spoke about today, okay, this would probably be the most important slide to give you context as to why you should use a database like Web of Science. The reason is because of the power of the citation network. So what is this citation network? It is, imagine like a spider web connecting the different papers together. And that's what we call the citation network. How can you as a researcher use this citation network to design your research question or even find related materials? You would explore by, number one, doing a keyword search first on the platform and browsing through some of these interesting topics or interesting papers. Subsequently, there will always be one or two papers that catches your eye. And this is what I would refer to as my Eureka paper, the paper that sparked an idea in me. Okay? So from that spark, how can you continue to find related materials? So take, for example, on the left side on this screen, you would see this 2012 paper that sparked an idea for me. So I'll refer to this as my Eureka paper. And in order to make sure that you're identifying all the available gaps or how this technology has already been applied before, you would want to explore backwards in time. So how do you do that from this Eureka paper? You would refer to the reference list. So you would look at the cited references of this document in 2012. So the reference list, do you think they will show papers published before or after 2012? it will usually be before 2012. Okay, it would definitely be before this 2012 paper was published. So you can trace back in time, looking through the year 2000, 1998, 1993, 1974. Okay, so on the left, in these blue boxes, these will be content or related materials published before this document that you were looking at. Now, what about after 2012? What has happened after 2012 until today, which is year 2022? Then what you would do is look at the time cited. So how many times has this 2012 paper been cited by newer documents or newer research papers? And this would be the pool of green papers. Okay. So now you have two parts of the timeline. You have backwards in time, okay, and forwards until today. And this would allow you to identify the comprehensive information as well as identify potential gaps for you to answer with your own research topic. Now, the other feature of a citation network on Web of Science is what we call the related records. So let's say you've typed in a search for a particular chemical compound, and there will be a set of results. We give you an additional option where references used in these yellow papers are similar to those used in the 2012 one. So that means these are papers that have not cited each other, but they would have similar references with this original 2012 ones. So all in all, this is what I call the citation network. And using this method of exploration, of discovery, will allow you to make sure that you are identifying the right related papers to the topic that you're interested in doing. Okay. So when is this method useful? Okay. Number one, when the keyword of a topic is not easy to define. An example would be, say, Internet of Things, okay, IoT. IoT can be applied across a lot of different areas. If you put in IoT and without further defining it, you would miss out on important papers. So that is one quick example. The other use case is when you want to discover older research that needs to be traced. This is particularly important in, say, biochemistry. Okay? For biochemistry, if you are working on a chemical compound, say epoximycin, you would want to know all the way back into, as far as possible, when was epoximycin discovered? When was that technology? When was that chemical compound first discovered? How has it been applied over time until today? So that's where it is important to be able to trace back into history. And the third use case is what I've also just elaborated on, being able to identify all the applications across time for that technology or that chemical compound or that topic that you want to do. Okay? And identify those trends. Now, a little trivia or question to wake up your morning minds. Okay, what do these three pictures on the screen have in common? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. So the first picture is sand, in case you are wondering what it is. Okay, then on the right-hand side, you have a galaxy of stars. And at the bottom, you have journals. What do these three things have in common? If you want to type those responses into the chat, it'll be interesting to see them. Otherwise, I'll give you 3 seconds to have that thought in your mind. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see Sheikh Asman said information. Yeah, information in what sense? Overwhelming numbers of information. Right? So we can't really count sand, we can't really count stars. I think until today, I think you're able to buy a star, right? So countless information, Henry said. All right, so all of this exists in overwhelming numbers. Now, I want you to think about journals. Let's take a closer look at journals. How many journals do you think there are in your own specialization? Just your own specialization. Think about it. It could be a few thousand, so it could be 1,000, 1,005, 2,000. Think about how journals are published. They have multiple volumes, they have multiple issues. Within each issue, you have maybe 15 articles. Multiply that by the number of volume issue. How much full text, how much papers or research will you be looking at for your specialization alone? Tens of thousands. Okay. Now, another question I have for you. How many research articles can you read in a week? Yeah, I know for UMP, a lot of you are engineering students. So I know engineering students, research papers can be quite long. So how many papers do you think you can read and understand fully in a week? Maybe 1 or 2? Wow, some of you say 5, 7. Wow, very fast readers. Okay, so let's take a number. Let's take 2. They say you have 2 papers a week. How many weeks do we have in a year? 52. Multiply that, 104. So remember how many articles are there in your own specialization? Tens of thousands, right? How are you going to be able to filter down to those important ones that you are supposed to read? And added to that, now there are many, many predatory journals. How can you tell whether what you're reading is trusted or trustworthy? So think about that. This is one of the most important messages I always drive to researchers. Make sure that you're using content that is legitimate, that has been peer-reviewed, and comes from reliable sources. Okay, so to learn more about how you can identify reliable sources, come for our afternoon session. All right. So now that you have that context in mind, you know how many articles you can potentially read a year. I want you to know Bradford's law. Okay, Bradford's law states that a relatively small number of journals publish majority of the significant scholarly results. Okay, so what does this mean? You don't need everything, right? Ideally, you want to be able to filter down to the most impactful documents, the most impactful journals that you can refer to for your research. Okay? And that's the fundamental reason and philosophy behind how the Web of Science core collection has been designed for researchers. We do not index every single journal out there. That can be done by Google Scholar. Okay, we currently index around 21,000 journals in the Web of Science core collection, around 200,000 conference proceedings, 100,000 books, and that gives you access to almost 65 million source items, right? And the content can span all the way back to the 1900s through back files. So what is covered in the Web of Science core collection? This is where I also want to spend a little bit more time to explain, because a lot of researchers are confused as to what is covered in Web of Science, what's not covered in Web of Science, what is SCIE, SSCI, AHCI. So I'll explain this to you using this next 2 slides. So under Web of Science core collection, it will include the Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, and Emerging Sources Citation Index. So these are the 4 journal indexes covered in the Web of Science core collection. Then we have the conference proceedings as well as the books. Now, the journals indexes have their own selection criteria and process. So does conference proceedings as well as books. Okay. How are they selected? It is through our publisher neutral evaluation process, where our in-house experts with no affiliations to publishers or research institutes will be the ones who are evaluating and selecting journals to be indexed in the core collection. Research integrity, editorial integrity is the top priority in Web of Science, because we understand the pain that researchers will face if they publish in a predatory journal. So what we've done is we have collated 24 quality criteria that all journals have to meet before they are first indexed in Web of Science. If they fulfill additional 4 more impact criteria, they will then be indexed in the SCIE or SSCI or AHCI. Now, with the evolution or the prevalence of more and more open science, we also see more and more open access journals. The evaluation process for open access journals is exactly the same as non-open access journals. So as long as it's a journal, it goes through the same evaluation process. And therefore, this helps to prevent predatory journals from entering the Web of Science core collection. This diagram will show you the evaluation process in a bit more detail and context. So any journal that wants to be indexed in Web of Science core collection goes through an evaluation process. If they meet our 24 quality criteria, they will be indexed in the Emerging Sources Citation Index. Now, the 24 quality criteria have to be met, all 24. You cannot miss out anyone, all right? Once they are in ESCI, if they meet an additional 4 more impact criteria, they will be indexed in the SCIE, SSCI, or AHCI, depending on the specialization. Out of these 3 specialized collections, only the SCIE and the SSCI journals will have a journal impact factor. Okay? So I repeat, this is a very important statement you have to remember. Only SCIE and SSCI journals will have a journal impact factor. The AHCI and ESCI journals will have other indicators that you can refer to on the journal citation reports, which I will cover this afternoon in more detail. Okay. Let me see whether there's any questions in the Q&A. Okay, Faisal, you said, can we get the slide after this webinar? Definitely. I will share this PDF with the library and they can share this with everyone. Okay. All right. Okay, so if there's any journal editors on the line, some of you might be keen to find out more about what are these criteria that we have for evaluation. So these are the 28 journal selection criteria that we have. And as you would be able to see, some of these factors or criteria are actually basic questions that you would probably have to ask when you are looking at a journal, because this would be questions that would help you, criteria that would help you identify or filter out non-reliable journals. Okay. Now I spoke about full text. Okay, Web of Science is not a full text database, but we do surface or identify which are the available free full text that you could access to. And this is done through a partnership with Impact Story, where we have identified all the way down to the article level, which are those articles that you can access for free without subscribing. Okay. So I've covered the citation network that would help you to identify top potential gaps that you want to fill with your research topic. Using that same citation network and content, you will be able to find related materials to support your research. Now, the next phase that we want to move into is the evaluation phase. Now that you have collected all this relevant content and literature, what can you do with it? How can you find, uncover interesting points related to this particular topic that you want to do? So on Web of Science, we have some features for evaluation or looking through the data. And you will be able to see, number one, this tool called Analyze Results. So this will help you to analyze the set of results for the content that you have just identified. So say, for example, here we have 13,945 publications. Where are these publications under based on the Web of Science categories? So the Web of Science research categories are the subject categories which the journals have been assigned to. There are a total of 254 Web of Science subject categories. And by using this tool, this Analyze Results tool, and looking at Web of Science categories, it can sometimes help you to uncover interesting applications of that technology that you were looking at. So say, for example, here I did a search on maybe, I think it was physics, optical physics. Yeah. So what has optical physics got to do with quantum science? Okay, so you might be wondering about how is it applied in quantum science technology. Then you can drill down into that particular set of documents around quantum science. Another example of this would be, say, you are doing material science and you were doing something on stretchable electronics. And when you're searching for stretchable electronics on Web of Science, perhaps you saw, there was some application in robotics. So how is stretchable electronics applied in robotics? This is how you can find its application. Okay. Now, the next feature that you would have is the citation report. So the citation report is useful in, say, grant applications. Okay, when you're doing grant applications to get grants for your research, sometimes you want to substantiate proof that the research that you have been working on is a prevailing one. The research topic is relevant in today's context. It's still relevant and exciting for researchers. And you can use the citation reports to gather this trend. The other way is to also run a citation report on the papers that you have already published on Web of Science. So you can search for your papers, your own papers on Web of Science, and run a citation report to show that your research has provided impact based on citation counts. And that would then help to substantiate and boost your potential grant application. Okay. The other features that we have is around filters. So we have some quick filters that you are able to identify. So you will be able to see highly cited papers, hot papers. I'll need to confirm whether UMP has access to this. So if anyone is on the call and you have turned on Web of Science, do have a look and see whether you have access to these highly cited papers and hot papers filter. Why is this important? The reason is because the highly cited papers will help you to identify the papers that have received enough citations to put them in the top 1% of their field. Okay, and these are papers that have been published in the past 10 years. Now, highly cited papers is one of the criteria used in evaluating or identifying highly cited researchers from Clarivate. So by being able to identify these highly cited papers, you are actually identifying the cream of the crop of those papers that around that topic that you were searching on. The next filter is your hot papers filter. Now, the hot papers filter would be talking about papers that have been more recently published, and these would be published in the past 2 years, and they have citations that put them in the top 0.1% of their field. Okay. So arm in arm, these highly cited papers and hot papers would identify for you those up and coming as well as important papers that you should be giving your attention to. The other feature that we have is usage counts. So usage counts can also be used to identify papers or documents or records that have been recently added to reference lists. Okay, this would be papers that this would be usage based on 6 months, the past 6 months. How often have they been how often has the full text been retrieved, and how often has it been added to Endnote, for example. Okay. Okay, then now full text again. We are talking about accessing the full text. Now we provide you with the full text links to the publisher. Okay, but in the event that there is a free full text available, you would see the free full text link from the publisher right here next to the record. I want to give you a tip or advice to help ease this retrieval one step further. Download this plugin called Endnote Click. Later on, when I go through the demo, I will show you where to install this or how to install this. But install Endnote Click to your web browser so that immediately, if there is a full text available, you would see View PDF with Endnote Click next to the record. Then once you click on that, it immediately retrieves the full text for you so that you don't have to do another search on a separate platform. Okay. In terms of open access, we have these different levels of open access that you can identify. For the benefit of the researchers here on the line who are not really sure what are the different levels, okay, Gold open access usually refers to, so for example, DOAJ Gold, these would be open access journals that are listed on DOAJ, okay? And these are journals that are free to read and do not require a subscription. We have bronze. Bronze is usually the hybrid, what we call hybrid journals. These are journals that require a subscription, but some of the articles remain free to read for a set period of time. So there could be perhaps some journals that say, oh, this article is free to read for this month because it is the month of the bat. Okay, so that's why they left it on for researchers to access. Then you have the green level open access, and these are articles that are usually in repositories, institutional repositories, or any other database repositories. Okay. Okay, then so now I've shared with you how you can evaluate the data. The other tool that you could use to manage the evaluation a bit better. So because I know one search does not always give you the most comprehensive results that you want to find. So sometimes you might do multiple searches. And as you do these multiple searches, you want to be able to bookmark some of these records for yourself and create a custom list, per se. So this tool that we have, which is called the marked list, can be utilized once you have registered for your own ID and password on Web of Science. So once you have registered for it, you will get some personalization features. You would then be able to access this thing called marked list. So what is this marked list? Think about it as a bookmark for your documents. So as you're browsing through Web of Science, you can highlight certain relevant records and keep it as a custom list to refer to later. Okay. So you can save up to 50 marked lists, and within each of these lists, you can include up to 50,000 records. These lists are also exportable, and you will also be able to use the analyze results and citation reports feature with this custom data set that you have created. So exporting wise, you will be able to export directly to your reference management tool. So like Endnote Desktop, Endnote Online. You can also export this into RIS format if you're using another reference tool other than Endnote. Okay. If you want to export this as a data set that you want to merge with another different source for data evaluations outside of Web of Science, you can also export this in Excel. Okay. The export limit is 1,000 records at a time. So say, for example, here you have 13,945 records. It means that you have to probably do 14 downloads. Okay. But of course, if you are looking at a very huge data set that you want to work on, we have various APIs available that you can access to. So there is a starter API that you can use to mass retrieve the data, or you can always reach out to us to purchase a custom data set. Okay, so I know I spent a lot of time on my slides, but I thought that is a very important foundation to help you understand why is it important to use Web of Science compared to any other databases out there. Okay, so while I'm setting up for the live demonstration, if you have any questions, please, I encourage you to put them into the Q&A or the chat box. Okay, so I have one question from Faisal. I have used these analyzed results for cytometric analysis. My question is, where can we get description on how to explain more on paper? Faisal, I might need you to give me a further elaboration on your question. Are you talking about finding more about accessing the related papers from analyzed results? Or okay, so I will share with you that particular step later. Okay. All right. So all of you, I think I wanted to let you know you're privileged, because this morning when I turned on Web of Science, I saw new features and that I myself have never seen before. All right. The one thing, if you have used Web of Science before today's session, I think you realize that the menu has changed. So we moved the menu all the way to the left-hand side so that we can have more screen space. So if you want to open up the menu, just open this up. Okay. There are other features as well that I will share with you. But first things first, for those of you who have just started using Web of Science, never used Web of Science before, to access Web of Science, go through your library's website. If you're off campus, sign in through your off-campus access through the library, and then look for Web of Science. Once you're in Web of Science, you can start browsing and searching as per what I'm doing today. If you want the personalization features, then I will encourage you to register for your own ID and password, which you can do so on the right-hand side of the screen. So this is where my name is. You will be able to see a registration, and you can get your own ID and password. But just remember that you have to be on the either the off-campus access or on-campus access for Web of Science first. All right, so searching through Web of Science is pretty simple. You start with either a document search or a researcher search. Under the document search, you are able to find documents based on these various fields here in the drop-down menu. Okay, if you want to understand what each of these fields mean, you just hover over them, and then on the right-hand side, there will be a quick explanation. Okay. For the benefit of today's demonstration, my focus will be on the topic search. So what is a topic search? It will search for that keyword's appearance on the title, abstract, and keywords of the article. Right? Now, to ensure that you are searching through the correct content, I just wanted to point out how you can verify what you have access to. Number one, you would see that you are searching on the Web of Science core collection, which is what I've mentioned earlier on, which is the SCIE, SSCI, AHCI, and the ESCI conference proceedings and books. Okay. You might have access to the other databases here, depending on your subscription. Okay. You might have access to some of the regional indexes like Korean Journal Database, Cielo, Chinese Science Citation Database. Those are the freely accessible regional databases that you can access to. The others here like Biosys, Previews, Derwent, FSTA, Inspect, all these require additional subscriptions. To find out what content you have access to in terms of the depth, okay, then you click on Additions and you see this drop down. You will see which are the indexes you have access to. So Science Citation Index, I have access to 1900, okay, because I work for Clarivate. So, but for UMP, your access would be slightly different. Okay. So let's start with a topic search. I see that Faisal has another question. What is the difference between keyword and term? I got this after a run analysis. So the keywords so what if I type in the word engine? Okay, this is what we call a keyword. All right. The search term it tends to be used interchangeably with search terms. Okay, but yeah, so they usually refer to the same thing. So for today's search, I will start with a quick search on, say, hydrogen. I think recently there has been a lot of news or research out there about hydrogen energy. Yeah, so let's look at hydrogen and energy. So I put in hydrogen energy. When this happens, it is looking for hydrogen and energy. If you want that particular phrase, okay, this is delving into a bit of Boolean searching already. You would put in the parenthesis so that you are searching for the exact same phrase. Okay. Another useful tip I have is when, for example, you know that hydrogen and energy tends to be mentioned quite close together, but not always together. Okay, and you don't want to miss out on some of this content. You can use this other Boolean called near. So when you use this near, it will identify hydrogen and energy as long as they are less than five words apart. Okay, so it could be hydrogen, something, something, something energy. Okay, then that document will be pulled out as well. Okay? So just a quick tip on Boolean searching here. But I myself, I'm not an expert. I'm still learning as well. Do reach out to your library. The reference librarians tend to be the experts in Boolean searching. Okay, so let's start with hydrogen energy search. You can add another filter here if you want to. So you can actually put in an additional Boolean connector to limit your search a bit more. So you can actually limit based on any additional fields that you can search here. So perhaps you want to find hydrogen energy from a specific year range, so 2010 to 2022. Okay, then you do a search. And this would show you the 10 years, 12 years or so content about hydrogen energy. All right. Now, there is a way for you to reduce these results. So I'm going to bring you back. Remember my send stars and journal slide. Okay, the number of articles that you want to be able to easily look at. You definitely don't have the ability to look through 164,000 documents. So you want to limit this down further. You can either search within this set of results. So perhaps, say for example, you are looking specifically at the storage of hydrogen energy. Then you can put in storage. Just an example, okay? Then this would reduce the 164,000 to 26,963. Still a huge number, but you can use these various other filters here on the left to reduce your results further. Alternatively, you can also use the sort functionality, which is on the right-hand side here, to sort this based on a few things. Okay, based on relevance is by default. Okay, then you have oldest first. So remember how I mentioned about tracing back in history. So when was the first time hydrogen energy storage was mentioned? You might want to sort this list by oldest first. Okay, then from here you can then look through the records and see which is useful for you. You don't have to really click into the actual record yet, because we are able to see the abstract of the document right here on the results page. The other filter sort functionalities can also be utilized. So citations for higher citations first, usage count, all these can help you to surface different types of papers. The filters on the left the quick filters here, the highly cited papers. So if you want to look at only the highly cited papers and hot papers, you just select those two filters and refine. And this would be the most important 869 papers talking about hydrogen energy storage. The next thing that you would want to do is explore what we call the citation network. So say, for example, here we have this particular one. So let's click through to this particular article. You can see details about the article here, the journal's authors, the article's authors, the journal it is in. Okay, if you click on the journal name, you can also see its relevant impact factor and the quartile. At the bottom, you would see the relevant corresponding email address. So if you want to reach out to this author to discuss perhaps a collaboration, there is an opportunity for you to do so right here. Okay. The citation network can be accessed via the right-hand side. So this is where we talk about the citation network, looking back in history and looking forward until today. So this article was published in 2012. So to know what has happened before 2012, you click on the cited references. So there are 42 cited references here that you can refer to. Let's take a quick look at these references. Okay. So once you click down, it will bring you to the references used by this article, and immediately you are able to see each document. If it is indexed in Web of Science, there will be a corresponding link to that particular record, and you can start continuing to explore this network. As you can see on the right-hand side, the citation network of each of these documents is also there. Right. So let's go back to the top. Okay. Then if you want to know what has happened after its publication, after 2012, then you would look at the 270 papers that have cited it after it has been published. Okay. Now to retrieve the full text, there is a few options. So this particular article, there's no free full text, so you would link out to the full text at the publisher level. Or if you want to be able to immediately retrieve something, you can install Endnote Click. So on the top products dashboard here, so click on that, and there will be Endnote Click. Select Endnote Click, it will open up a separate tab, and it will prompt you to create your own Endnote Click account. Once you are registered for your own Endnote Click account, it will also prompt you which university you're from. Then you indicate University Malaysia Pahang. Once you've indicated that, it will start working in the background. So how does this work? Let me go back to the search page. Results. Okay, let's go back to the results. And you would be able to see how it's working in the background. Okay, so you see this term here, searching. So it's searching through your institution library, it's searching through open access versions, repositories. If there is a full text, it will immediately show here. It's an open access version, and you can click View PDF with Endnote Click, and you are able to immediately retrieve the full text. All right, so this is the full text, and you can download the PDF to store on your PC, or you can export this to Endnote Desktop. You could even share this with your friend. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, let me have a look at the chat and the Q&A. No questions. It seems like a very quiet audience we have here today. Okay, don't feel shy. It's your chance to clarify any questions you might have. Just feel free to ask them. Okay. Now, I've mentioned about the citation network. I've shown you how to retrieve the text. Okay, the next thing is how you want to evaluate this data. Oh, before that, how to add to marked list. If you want to include these articles into your marked list, you can select them and then go to Add to Marked List. You can either create a new list and name them, or you can put them into your unfiled list if you're not ready to save them yet. So I have, I think, probably close to 3,000 plus on my list here. So I have, 3,465 that I have in my marked list. But this is how you would add to your list. Okay. To access your marked list, just go to the menu and then go to marked list, and you can retrieve that list that you have created. Exporting wise, you can click on export. I will give you an example of how you can export to Excel. So just click on export to Excel. It will give you a few options. So each page will have 50 results. You can export to up to the whole set if it's less than 1,000. So here it's 869. I would choose records 1 to 869. By default, it will only show you export for author, title, and source, which is the journal or the conference proceeding. If you want the full information, there is a full record option, or you can edit the fields that you want to export. You would have the option of exporting affiliations, keywords, everything here, okay, depending on what you want as your data set. Okay, now to evaluate your data set, so say this 869 papers on hydrogen energy storage, click on Analyze Results. Then you would see the Web of Science categories as by default the first analysis that you would see. So here you would look at hydrogen energy storage and look, hey, where is it applied? Oh, how is it applied in green sustainable science technology? Then you would drill down to view the record of this 77 papers. Okay, now this is by default the top 10 results. You can show the top 25. You can even have different visualizations here. Okay, and you can download those visualizations. If you scroll down, you would see it in a table form, and you would be able to uncover even more interesting applications. So for example, how has hydrogen energy storage been applied in biochemistry, molecular biology? Okay, then you can look at that 4 papers. How has it been applied in polymer science? You can look at those 3 papers. Okay, this is how you then uncover interesting applications. Okay, so Cik Asman, thank you for joining us for today. I see that you have to leave for a meeting, so thank you very much. I'll see you again next time. Yeah. Okay. And the other analysis that you can access to are here. So you would be able to analyze by publication year, the funding agency, so who has funded hydrogen energy storage research. You can also look at, let me see, countries that are publishing in this area of research. If you're identifying countries to collaborate with, you could click. So for example, you want to find somebody in Australia. Okay, I know that Australia is doing a lot on hydrogen energy storage at the moment. So perhaps you want to reach out to them to do some partnerships or collaboration. If you want to look at institutions, then look at affiliations, and you'll see the affiliations around the world that is doing this area of research. Okay, so that's analyze results. Let's go back to the results page. Okay, the next thing is the citation report. So you can run a citation report of this 869 papers. So just click on citation report. Just take note, for citation report, it requires you to reduce the size of the results to 10,000. Okay, so citation reports can only be run for result sets of 10,000 and below. Okay. So here is the citation performance and publication rates of this set of documents. Okay, you can see the citation rates and publication rates over time and to each of this article. Okay. Kavi, you have asked whether you would be able to request a copy of the recording. Yes. So for those of you who are not able to stay for the rest of the session, I think we have another 30 minutes more. Okay. Feel free to drop off, but you do rest assured that the recording will be shared with all of you. All right. Okay, so this is the citation performance of this set of documents. You can export this as a full report for your analysis. That's also possible. Okay, so that's the quick overview of how you search for a topic, use the citation network, evaluation tools that we have. The next thing I wanted to share with you is some of the other personalization features that we have. There is a dashboard here. So once you have registered for your own ID or password, you would see some personalized information for you. So it will show you your recent searches, okay, and also your alerts that you have saved. It will also show you your researcher metrics if you have already claimed your researcher record on Web of Science. Okay. The other personalization features you have is in terms of the searches. Okay, so under history, let's look at the search history that we have. You can see your search history here. If you want to replicate any of this, you can immediately access them. If you want to save and create an alert, you can do so if you have not done it. And if you want to share this search with your colleague, you can do so by copying the link and sharing it into the chat box. So I'm going to give you an example here. I've put this into the chat. So by right, if you have access Web of Science, you can click on that link immediately and replicate that same search that I've just done. Okay, so it's very convenient when you want to share a search with your colleague or co-authors or project mates. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the search. Okay. So here, you can also claim your record. So for all of you, you have already got your access to Web of Science. If you have published articles on Web of Science before, I highly encourage you to claim your own author record on Web of Science. So to do so, just go to the Researcher Search tab. Okay, I'm going to use an example here. So either you type in the name of the researcher, which is your full name, or you can, if you have previously had a researcher ID or an ORCID ID, you can actually do a search on those identifiers. Okay? So I'm just going to give you an example of how you can see a claim profile. So say, for example, here. So for Dr. Sudhakar, this is his profile. You will be able to see his picture, his affiliations. So he's currently has multiple affiliations. These are his other published names. These are his publications on the Web of Science. So when you're claiming your profile, I highly encourage you to check that you're claiming the right publications. Okay. Because if you don't, then the data becomes inaccurate. Okay, so do always check that the publication list is correct. So this record has been claimed by Dr. Sudhakar, and you can see his publication list. So there are 137 publications on the Web of Science core collection. You will see this little box here that says include publications not indexed in in core collection. What does this mean? It means that he has actually added 28 publications that is not in Web of Science. So you can still put non-Web of Science articles into this profile that you have, but the citation counts will not appear for those because they are not indexed in Web of Science. Okay. He has also included his peer review information. So if you click on the peer review tab, you would see the journals that he has peer reviewed for, his editorial board memberships. Then on the right-hand side, this would be all his author metrics, his H index, number of publications, citation counts. And this feature, which I wanted to explain a little bit more. So this is the author impact beam plot. All right. I think everyone understands H-index. So H-index represents that he has at least 33 papers that have citations of 33 and have 33 citations. All right. But H-index tends to increase over time or over career. And it doesn't really fully reflect whether that researcher is still active in research or not. So when it comes to performance measurements, we have introduced this thing called author impact beam plot. And this shows you how his performance is in relation to that same that research area that he is doing. So on average, you can see here, his publications has put him in the, let me see, 74th percentile of his field. So that means he is the top 25% of his field based on his publications. Okay. So if you want to see his full career, you can open this dashboard and you would see this beam plot in more detail. So this beam plot shows you a lot of purple dots, okay? It's not that, well, science has chicken pox, okay? But ultimately, these all represent each of his papers. So you can see here, let's look at some of these latest ones. So in 2020, he had one paper that was published on analysis of solar PV glare in airport environment, potential solutions. So this paper has 9 citations in 2020, and it has been put in the 87th percentile of the engineering field. So meaning this paper is performing in the top 13% of engineering field. Okay, you can expand this to see a longer table if his career spans longer before 2012. Okay. Then if you come down, we have this thing called Geographic Citation Map for each researcher. So you will be able to click on to show the map, and it will uncover where your citations are coming from, which countries are citing your work. Okay. So these two additional, I would say, tools or features would help you understand the researcher a bit more and the context and his performance. Okay. Let's close this. So how do you claim your profile? Okay, let's go back to the author search. As I mentioned, search for your name. Okay, so let's do a search. So for Dr. Sudhakar, Professor Sudhakar, he has 2 profiles here. One has been claimed, one not claimed. The reason why there's a new profile here is because he seems to have 2 researcher IDs. So if you have 2 researcher IDs, you can write into us and we can combine your records together for you. Okay, so just write into this address that I'm going to put into the chat box. Okay, wasgsupport@clarivate.com, and they will be able to assist you to merge your record from there. Okay, if you want to claim your profile, okay, then you just select the profile that is this one, say for example this particular one, then click on claim my record. You would then follow the process of claiming your record via Publons. Oh, sorry, not Publon. So see, this is brand new. So it was just released today. Okay, even I'm surprised. But you can now claim your profile directly from Web of Science without going to a third-party platform. So now you can immediately check whether these 5 publications are yours, select them, and submit. Okay. Once you have wrote this, then you can click claim. Okay. Otherwise, you might have to register for your own ID and password, and therefore it would then create a profile for yourself. Okay. So that is how you claim your profile, claim your record. Okay, Kasing, Dr. Lim, you have a question. I searched mine, it shows 3 author records. How can I combine? So let's just use your name as an example then. Okay, let me search. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I would assume Lim is your last name. And Lim. Okay, search. Okay, so you have multiple profiles here. Okay, so because you have 2 researcher IDs, I would encourage you to write into our support email address so that they will be able to merge for you. Just let them know which is your preferred researcher ID and which of these profiles you want to merge together. They will be able to do that for you. Okay, so that's why these 3, you would probably have to write into our WAS group to do a merge for you. Okay. Then let me see. One, Shahira. Okay, Shahira, you can't search for your name. Just want to confirm if you have published a paper that is already indexed in Web of Science. If it is, the easiest way is to have a quick look to see how your name has been mentioned. So if you know you're published, if you can let me know what is your most commonly published name, because your name tends to be, it is very long. So let me know what is your usual published name, and I will be able to do a quick search. Shamsuddin, one, Shahira. So this one. So I believe this is your name. Okay. Then you do a search. Okay, so that's your profile, your 7 publications, and then you can claim your record. Okay, I hope that answers your question. So Puan Azura, you have a question. For usage statistics, which criteria represent usage for WAS and JCR? Is it platform usage, session? So Puan Azura, perhaps I can reach out to you via an email directly so that we can explain to you about the usage statistics, because this would probably be more relevant for the library staff who want to know and understand the usage report better. Okay, so I'll reach out to you separately to explain the statistics to you. Okay, but in any case, if you want to set up an administrative account for Web of Science to retrieve your Web of Science usage, you can do so. Just write into us and we will be able to guide you along. Okay. Okay, so let me see. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think I've covered most of what I wanted to share with you. Since we have some time, I will just share with you some additional features that you see here. You would see cited reference search as well. So what is this cited reference search? So say, for example, you might be interested to find out whether a particular document or content has been referenced in a paper indexed in Web of Science. Okay. Say, for example, the Quran. Okay, say, for example, the Quran, it is not indexed in Web of Science, but you want to see whether any documents or materials in Web of Science has mentioned the Quran in its reference. So then you can search Quran and then search. And there will be these available, and you can select whichever ones that you want to see, and you see the results. So all these works or all these articles in Web of Science have mentioned the Quran in its references. Okay, so this is how the cited references work. For journals that have not been indexed in Web of Science yet, if you want to see how your journal has been mentioned within the Web of Science researchers articles, you can type in your journal's name. Usually it's the abbreviation of your journal name in the cited work, and you will be able to see the articles in Web of Science that have included your journal in their references. Okay. Okay. Final few things before we go into final questions and answers. Okay, there is a resource center available for you on the bottom right-hand side. This is where you see our latest product updates, guided tours, and also, as well as training. So what I've covered today may not be a full comprehensive feature explanation, okay? But if you want to know everything about Web of Science, you can enroll yourself to a self-help, self-guided course that we have. So you can access this here. Otherwise, there is a training portal available. So you can click here. And this is our training portal that you can access to see some of the videos, PDF guides. So for the library, if you want to attach the PDF guides to your lib guides, you can do so from here. Okay. Another thing that I want, so let's come back to my slide. I also wanted to highlight to you that as part of your subscription for Web of Science, you have access to this app that you can download onto your Android or Apple devices. So you can scan the QR code to see more details, or go to the Google Play Store or Apple Store to the App Store to find Web of Science My RA. My RA represents My Research Assistant. You can log in using the same ID and password you've registered with for your access to Web of Science, and that will then give you full access immediately on your app. For the library, in terms of the usage, the access to the app will also be tied to your usage counts. So if they are using this on their mobile device via the app, it still counts towards your total usage. Okay. Endnote click, I've already shown you where to access, and the training resources as well. Okay. So this is my email address. If you have any questions that you don't want to ask online here, but you want to reach out to me separately, feel free to do so. Okay. If you have any platform related questions like access issues or content data related issues, do reach out to the WASG support@clarivate.com email that I had previously typed into the chat box. Okay, because once you send those to me, I will still have to send it over to them anyway. Okay, so to cut short the lead time, just reach out to them directly if you want to, if you can. Okay. Alternatively, on the platform, under the resource center, there is still a help section. Okay. So there is also a suggest a feature. You can feel free to suggest new features to us. Okay. Okay. I might have to clear my cache. Okay, but there is usually a support, a help support link right here under the resource center, so you can click through to reach our support staff. For those of you who have already registered for your own claim your own author record, if you want to update your publications, this is where you can go to. So at the bottom of the screen, immediately there's a quick link for authors to add publications and add peer reviews. Okay. And that's it. So now we have about 10 minutes that we have for questions. For those of you who do not have any questions for me, thank you very much for coming for today's session. I will definitely be sharing the recording with you probably tomorrow. So give me some time to compile both recordings for today's sessions before I send those links out, and the slides as well. Okay. So thank you very much for your attention. For those of you who have more questions, feel free to type those questions in. Or if you want to ask the question live, just raise your hand and then I can unmute you so that you can ask those questions. Okay. But otherwise, thank you to the library. And for those of you who are coming for this afternoon session, see you later so that you can get more tips from me on how to identify journals to publish in. Okay. So the recording will be sent to you via the WebEx email directly, but I'll also be sending that link onto the library and they will be able to share this with all of you. All right. Okay, so no more questions. Doesn't seem to have any questions from anyone here. No hands raised. Okay, let me stop the recording first.